as the Detroit Lions choked away the NFC Championship game. And listen, I think one of the interesting conversations coming out of this game is the job that Dan Campbell did on the Detroit Lions. And I think I look at Dan Campbell and I say to myself, maybe gamble less. I understand it. And everybody wants to hit me on Twitter and tell me that, hey, this is who the Lions are. We go for it on fourth down. You don't always do the same thing all the time. If you did, you get the exact same result. And guess what? You didn't. You went for it on 4th and 3 all year long. I get that. This was not the time to go for it on 4th and 3. It absolutely was not the time, especially at the end of the first half when you had a chance to be up 3 scores and put that game away and you chose not to do it. And then in that second half moment where you absolutely had a meltdown in protection, Jared Goff is outside the pocket, makes a horrendous throw. It was the wrong time. I understand that it's a 48-yard field goal. It should be a field goal that you can rely on. And listen, if you have a kicker that you don't believe can make that kick, you've got the wrong kicker, which is Dan Campbell's fault in the first place. The bottom line is you dominated the San Francisco 49ers to the point where I did not believe that this was even going to be an entertaining second half. And then you come out of the locker room and gambling Dan Campbell is going for it on 4th down and simply chooses not to run the football anymore. And the hardest thing for Lion fans to comprehend is you needed a football coach, not a motivational speaker in the second half. And Jake, I think that's why the San Francisco 49ers are going to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of the silliest arguments that people are making today, that it's like, hey, that's what we did all year. Well, what you did all year doesn't mean that's what you should do in the NFC Championship game on the road when you have control of the game. And that's the thing that surprised me the most. It wasn't the lack of protection in that second half situation. It wasn't that Jared Goff made a bad throw, rolling to his right. It was that you thought it was a good idea to continue to go for it in a crucial situation, right? Like at some point, you got to say to yourself, okay, we're going to take the points here. We're going to elongate the game. We're going to keep ourselves in this game. We're essentially going to count on the fact that, the 49ers, regardless of what we do, are going to go down the field and score, right? We have to assume that. So take the points, Dan. Take the damn points and keep it a one-possession game and give Jared Goff the opportunity to go down the field to win the game at that point. Like, that's what's wild to me. So, if you're a Lions fan today sitting here trying to defend this, just stop. Just say, hey, you know what? The better team won yesterday, because the thing you can't get away from is your protection did get beat. That run defense was stout in the second half. The 49ers showed the hell up in the second half. And yeah, it is a choke job out of the Lions. You should have won that game handily. You should have. And Gardner Johnson on the sideline waving to the fans probably didn't help your chances in the second half. So to me, I just look at it and I say, you know what? This Lions team had a great year, and Dan Campbell, for getting to the NFC Championship game, deserves a lot of respect, but he also deserves a ton of criticism for the way you managed 4th down and also just the way you managed the game, because I do feel like you went away from the run in the second half, and that hurt you a lot. That allowed the 49ers to turn you into a one-dimensional offense, which is why you struggled. That's why you struggled. So to me, look, it's a great season, but a lot of mistakes made yesterday.
Yeah, I think the most egregious one is the 46-yard field goal on 4th and 2 was an absolute no-brainer. You could have been up 27-10. That, for all intent and purposes, ends the game. Instead, you don't get the conversion, and the 49ers march right down the field, and they score a touchdown, and now all of a sudden it's 24-17, and you know where this is going. Right. And I think the other one, the 48-yard field goal I mentioned a minute ago, that's a no-brainer. You're down 27-24. You have to force the 49ers to score again.
Yeah.
Have to. But instead, you allowed them to play in their entire playbook because they had a 3-point lead. Instead of being in a tie game, which changes the mentality, changes the complexion of that game, you allow them to run their entire repertoire of plays, and they did, right down your throat. And the hardest part is that I think Lion fans don't understand that two things can be possible at the same time. Dan Campbell has been, and I think arguably still is, one of the best stories in the NFL. And he absolutely killed you yesterday. You should have won the NFC Championship. You should be going to Las Vegas to play in the Super Bowl. You're not, because Dan Campbell was in over his head and he got horrifically out-coached by Shanahan and crew yesterday in Santa Clara. And I just don't know that there's any way to get away from it.
Yeah, and I think that, I look at this game and you always knew that the second half had a chance to be really special for the 49ers and really not so special for the Lions. Like, I'm watching this game and I'm like, okay, this is one of those defining moments for this 49ers team. Like, you're either you're gonna go to the locker room, you're going to watch the tape and make some adjustments, and you're going to come out and dominate this Lions team, or you're just going to roll over. And I had a hard time believing they were going to roll over at home. And so to me, if I'm the Lions, knowing you're on the road, like, it shouldn't be a situation where you completely change what you were doing.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like they came out in the second half and it just looked like a different team, like a pass heavy kind of just not committed to the run. Like, I don't know, like, if the offensive line for the Detroit Lions gassed themselves in that first half, but that offensive line got dominated in the second half. And I don't really know how something like that happens other than the 49ers just decide to play harder than you. Like,
I thought, truth be told, I thought Brock Purdy far outplayed Jared Goff in the second half. I thought Brock Purdy, as soon as the Ayuk touchdown happened, you could see he got his swagger back. And really, it wasn't a touchdown, excuse me. The Ayuk off the face mask pass interference.
Right, yeah.
Right. As soon as that moment happened, you could see that Brock Purdy got his swagger back. And I think then you start seeing Brock pull the ball down and run, getting multiple first downs. You see him just delivering that football to Juszczyk on the sideline, where your fullback has his toes in the green on the sideline. It was an incredible play. I just felt like the 49ers came out awake, aware, and ready to perform, and the Detroit Lions came out tight and nervous, and the moment was just too big for them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was on Dan Campbell. I don't know, and I do want to get to the AFC game, but I really want to get to the comment sections on Dan Campbell, because I want to know what you guys think. Did Dan Campbell cost the Detroit Lions a trip to the Super Bowl? I wholeheartedly say that he did.
Yeah, I just don't know how you say he didn't. Like, you look at the calls and it's like, dude, like, I understand, like, this balance. This has been a thing in the league, for the last like 2-3 seasons of like, hey, when do we go for it? Like, and again, we'll get to the AFC game, but we saw it in the AFC game as well, right? Like, when do you go for it on fourth down and when do you take the points? And again, it's one of these situations where the Detroit Lions have a very simple but reliable formula for success. And going for it on the road, on fourth down, around the 40-yard line is not necessarily a smart move. And it's
perplexing.
I don't understand, as like, even for Dan Campbell, like, and I agree with what your take is, right? Like, hey, you needed a football coach, not a motivational speaker, but I have a tough time sitting here saying that, damn, Dan, like, you didn't recognize that, hey, we could really use those 3 points because that insulates us if they go down and
just
score.
Tie the game.
Right? Like, just tie the game, dude. It's not that hard.
That's the one. It's the one where he chose to go for it down 3 that's inexcusable.
And by the way, if your kicker misses it, then it just is what it is.
That's on the GM, not the head coach. Make good decisions. And the other one, obviously, that we haven't talked about is the run play at the goal line.
Yeah.
When you're trying to get within a 1-score game, you can't run the football there because you know damn well that you're going to score a touchdown, and that's got to be the mentality. We are going to score a touchdown, or we are going to kick a field goal, and we are going to get that onside kick. But if we don't, we have all 3 of our timeouts to burn them out. And what happened to the San Francisco 49ers? They had 1 second to spare. Had you had your timeouts, had you thrown the ball out of the back of the end zone or kick the field goal, I would have kicked the field goal inside the 10. I'd have kicked it on third down and gone for the onside kick. We didn't get it. All right, let's go play defense, boys. We've got 3 timeouts. And you would, at that point, had 2 minutes and 7 seconds to go. That's more than enough time to get a defensive stop and make the 49ers get a first down.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that. And I think Dan is obviously, again, I don't dislike Dan Campbell, but again, they needed a football coach, not a motivational speaker. And more to the point, they needed an offensive football coach. And it makes me question Ben Johnson a little bit as well, but they needed an offensive football coach leading that football team. And I go back again. Who are the two teams in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers, two rock-solid quarterbacks, two rock-solid offenses, backed up by two really good defenses.
Yeah.
Balanced football, balanced meaning defense and offense, led by an offensive guy. That's the cookie cutter now.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at Mike Tomlin getting an absolute no vote of confidence from Mr. Rooney today, where they talked about the fact that, hey, I'm tired of missing the playoffs. I'm tired of not winning playoff games. It's been, 16 years since the Steelers won a playoff game, and they talked about it today, right? Because you have a defensive guy. Matt Eberflus on my horrifically terrible Chicago Bears, a defensive guy. And who's he hiring this offseason rather? Offensive guys? Sort of, but a ton of his Buffalo buddies are coming over and other defensive guys to bolster the defensive side of the football, right? Like, I can go on for days about this. Mike McCarthy made the Dallas Cowboys offense better, but now I think you've got to add more play calls. Like, all the disappointment. I look at what's going on in Green Bay. Jordan Love didn't accidentally make the playoffs. He's got a really good offensive mind and a really good development and skill building happening in Green Bay, and he's a better quarterback. Look at the Cleveland Browns. Oh, I don't know. You put a guy who can actually operate as a quarterback in Joe Flacco with a guy that can actually call plays on offense, and all of a sudden they're in the playoffs, right? Now, I look at the other situation. Look what's going on in Baltimore. What happened in Baltimore? You don't have a franchise quarterback, and you don't have an offensive head coach. Sorry. That's the reality of it. So let's get your thoughts on Dan Campbell here on the Monty Show. Let's see. Who's the first? Should we go all the way back to the top today? Big Blue Horses. The cream rises to the top. See 49ers and Chiefs. Execution. Yeah,
and Dan did feel over his head with clock management and situational awareness. There's just no way to get around that. And again, hey, I'm happy. If you're a Lions fan, like, I'm happy to agree with you. Hey, it's our first time back. Like, we messed this up, but really happy with how far we got. If that's what you're saying, I'm good with that. But there's no way around it. You should be in the Super Bowl. There's just no way around it.
I cannot get down with that. It is something where you should be in the you should be in the Super Bowl. You should be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. And you're not. And it's not because you got outplayed. You got outcoached. It's because you have a guy in Dan Campbell, motivational speaker. And Dan's a good dude. Like, you look at this, you guys, this speech after the game. And this is a guy that's broken and on the verge of tears.
I just felt really good about us converting and getting our momentum and not letting them play long ball. They were bleeding the clock out. That's what they do. And I wanted to get the upper hand back, and it's easy hindsight, and I get it, I get that. But I don't regret those decisions, and that's hard. It's hard because, we didn't come through. It wasn't able to work out, but I don't. And I understand the scrutiny I'll get. That's part of the gig, man. But, we just didn't work out.
I mean, you feel for the guy. It's absolutely devastating. And when he was talking about, will we ever get back here again? Dan, you won't. You won't. Not with this group of guys. Your coaching staff's about to get torn apart. Your players are about to get signed away. And I again just go back and why didn't you throw the ball to Penny Sewell? Why didn't you throw it to Penny Sewell? Wide open in the flat as a tight end. There's just these little decisions
Mm-hmm.
that inexperience absolutely crippled you on. And I look at Kyle Shanahan, perfect. Look at the end of the game. Man, recover the onside kick. It would have been illegal touching, as we found out.
Right.
Recover the onside kick. And why'd you recover the onside kick? Arguably your best set of hands on the football team. George Kittle was waiting for the football to come down, and he made the play. And then what did you do? You didn't just take 4 knees, right? No, you took 2 runs and another run, and then on 4th down, you let the clock run out, and then you knelt down and you won the game and you went to the Super Bowl with 1 second to spare. That's called clock management. And it's because you have a really experienced staff over there. You have a really good defensive coordinator in Steve Wilks. You have a really good offensive mind in Kyle Shanahan. You have excellent wide receiver coaching. I don't know if you guys saw the Dan Orlovsky breakdown today on ESPN. I think it was Brian Baldinger on Twitter, breaking down the blocking of the wide receivers, breaking down George Kittle pancaking Aiden Hutchinson 3 times. He pancaked him 3 times because they're well coached. They were prepared for the moment. And now the biggest question is, can you get back? Because Jared Goff's probably not your franchise quarterback, right? You have a ton of free agents. You're probably going to lose Ben Johnson to the Commanders. Man, it's just a kick in the balls.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it's just
all
not
this
what
is.
you want. It's not what you want, and it's really unfortunate. But I just don't know. Like, if you're Dan, like you better learn from this, man, because you can't just waste what happened here.
No, you can't. And Dan Campbell, I really hope. One, I think Ben Johnson should get the Commander's job. It's the right hire. When he gets that job, go hire the best offensive mind available and stay out of the offensive playrooms. Stay out of there, dude. Let your coordinators coordinate. Stay out of the way, because you learn, in my opinion, through situations like this. Dan Campbell will learn when to kick the field goal and when to go for it. But I think, and it really depends, and we'll see it on NFL Network, and how involved was Dan Campbell in some of the theory of offense in the second half? I'm a little surprised they didn't run the ball. And I know this has been an aggressive offense the whole year. That's not an excuse.
No, it's not.
Because it was a stupid offense in the second half. Unintelligent, bad football in the second half. No way to get around it. Dakota Tubbs says, how about the Chiefs? Brandon Butler gifts 5 Monty Show memberships. Aaron Wilson, a member of the show for 10 months. Howdy from Lubbock, Texas. Pew, pew. Wreck 'em, boy. Big 12 schedule comes out this week. Gifted 1 Monty Show membership, he did. Appreciate you. Jeff Woodworth. Dan Campbell doesn't believe kickers belong in a football game. Well, I mean, listen, I don't even tend to disagree with that. But I also look at Jake Moody. Jake Moody missed a huge field goal early in this game.
Yes, he did.
And then he made 2 big ones. And it's just that calm. It doesn't matter if Badgley is a 50-yard kicker or not. I just needed him to be a 46 and a 48-yard kicker.
I don't regret those decisions.
And if he misses, you made the right decision. That's all a head coach can do, right? Make the right play call in the right moment. And if they exit, hey, if you catch that football on 4th and 2, hey, we're in really good shape, right? But again, what sucks is you had a situation where Josh Reynolds didn't catch the ball. And you know what my answer to that is? Why didn't you target Jameson Williams more? Because the 2 touchdowns he had were cake. The fact that he had 2 catches and 3 targets. Again, I'm just curious about the play calling. And I agree that Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown should get the majority of the work. Jameson Williams is a hell of a wide receiver.
Yes, he is.
And I have no idea, because watching him run down the field, he's healthy enough to play. You gave him 3 targets and 4 went to Josh Reynolds, who dropped 2 of them.
Well, especially against that defense, right? I mean,
Wild.
it's always the secondary guys that are going to beat a good defense. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild to me. Let's see. Drew Dozer. What's up, Drew? Wasikowski and Robert, who would win in a fight? Are you guys really going back and forth? Stop. Conundrum. Dan Chowderhead Campbell. Chowder. I like the Dan Gamble reference.
Yeah, Dan Gamble's awesome.
Dan Gamble's a good one. Christopher Shannon, 24-10, and you go for it on 4th instead of 3 points. It's wild. Got to get to 3 scores. You got to make that a 17-point game. It just has to happen. That ends the game. You're not giving away momentum. All you care about with a 14-point lead is getting 3 more points. I've covered football for over 30 years. The difference between a 17 and a 14-point game is massive. And you know what the difference is? It's not even the points. It's the time on the clock. You're talking about potentially 5 to 9 minute time swing there. Just on 3 points. Because that's another full possession. Okay, they scored a touchdown. Shit, they scored another touchdown. Okay, well, now we've got to go ahead and run the clock. Execute offense. All right, you go 3 and out. That's probably, if you run the ball, and then pass the ball, that's probably 2.5 minutes. And then you're going to punt it, and they're still going to have to come all the way down. Another play. How on that punt are your feet in the end zone? How?
I don't know.
How on that? How on the fumble by Gibbs? Jake and I are texting back and forth while watching the game. Dude, it is January. And your running back, who's been your running back all season, went the wrong way.
Yeah.
Went the wrong way. Gave the defense an absolute advantage, wound up fumbling. A huge moment in the game.
Yep.
Moment was too big for the Lions. That just is what it is, man. You know, newsflash, you're on the road. Yes.
Seriously.
Yes. Jack says, I wouldn't bet against the pent-up rage of Lions fans. Yeah, I probably wouldn't. Well, Eric, why are you coming in here like crawling in people's asses, man? Like, just relax. Talk about football, man. Don't talk about other people. Brandon Butler, funny the teams that had experience made it something to be said for having been there before.
Well, yeah. No
Andy Reid's not going to be shook by anybody. It's just not going to happen. Sean Rollins, that was a big L. Mountain Mama. Mike Smith. Lions outplayed and outcoached the 49ers in the first half. It switched in the second to the 49ers' advantage. Yes, it did. Christopher Shannon, just take 3 points every time. Add to your 24 points. Keep the 49ers having to score just to tie the game. Basic football.
Yeah.
And yet you went for it. And again, I think one of the biggest things, and I know I talked about this a lot last week going into the game, the Brock Purdy slander's got to stop now. The cat absolutely operated in a huge moment in time and consistently executed better than Jared Goff did. Consistently better than the Lions did. Ball was on time. Ball was in space. He's not throwing in the double teams. Even the Ayuk sensational face mask catch. Perfectly thrown football, right? Put it in time and space. Brock Purdy outplayed Jared Goff, made better plays. The fact, and something I've said 100 times on this show, you got to be a dual threat quarterback now. You got to be a dual threat quarterback. If you cannot run in this league, Jared Goff, you are playing at a disadvantage, because every time Brock Purdy had 2 seconds in the pocket, the middle of the field opened up, the seas parted, and he took off running, and it was crippling to the Detroit Lions defense. I think the slander of Brock Purdy, Jake, has to come to an end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, Brock had a hell of a game. And I think that, the dual threat portion is huge for his game. Again, and we'll get to the AFC, but I think running quarterbacks in this league, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to go out and get those 7 yards that your wide receivers can't get you from time to time. And I think that's the kind of the crazy part about that 4th down for the Lions, where Goff is rolling out right. Like, I'm not saying that he could have gone and, got that 1st down, but a faster quarterback might have been able to make something of that. If, what happens if Jared Goff has, Patrick Mahomes running ability and he just decides, I'm going to beeline it for the pylon at the first down. What then? So that's why I say, like, Jared Goff is a great quarterback, but he's not in the top cut. And we all knew that going into the game, which is why I say, holy cow, how are you only targeting two guys for the majority of the game?
It's wild.
Because you have a pocket passing quarterback that admittedly can throw a nice deep ball, but you're not pushing it down the field. So to me, I just was really surprised how they went about it. And to have a guy back there who can't run means you have to complete at a higher level.
Well, and I'm with Paulo on this. We talked about this in our vaunted secretive pre-show meeting with the door open because it's 1,000 degrees in our studio. Run the damn ball on 3rd and 1. Hello, Detroit and Baltimore. And again, it's not that you went for it on 4th down, right? That's not even, in my opinion, that's bad. Like the not kicking that, especially the one to put you up 3 scores, that's really bad. Especially the one not to tie the game, that's really, really bad. But some of the 3rd down play calling, some of the where you're 3rd and 1, and you don't, I think it was 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, you don't run the ball. What you're in the lead, you're throwing and stopping the clock in one situation. Like, what are you doing? Like, and the other thing is you are throwing the ball and your guys are going out of bounds. Right? At least go out of bounds losing yards so that the clock keeps running. It's remarkable to me the amount of mistakes that they made in the 3rd quarter that set up that unbelievable 4th quarter. And it just, Paulo, I agree with you 100%. The 3rd down play calls
awful
were just inexplicable. I can't even. Dakota Tubbs, if Purdy wants respect, outplay Pat on the biggest stage. No, he's earned his respect. Whatever happens in the Super Bowl, that does not stipulate whether Brock Purdy is a legitimate quarterback that is championship material. Because he yesterday, again, and I don't even understand why there's all the critics of Brock Purdy. Yeah. I'm tired of hearing about Mr. Irrelevant. He is one of the single biggest misses in the history of the NFL draft at this point. He is quarterbacking his team to the Super Bowl. He is quarterbacking his team to the Super Bowl. And I say that twice because he's the reason they won that game. He absolutely operated offensively. Christian McCaffrey got dumped on his head, and you didn't miss a beat without him on those 3 downs, right? I look at the throws. I look at the runs. He is the reason the San Francisco 49ers are going to the Super Bowl. And yeah, did Fred Warner make some great plays? And did Dre Greenlaw somehow find the effort and energy to run around with Sam Laporta all night? Sure he did. That defense made plays when it had to. But damn it, I'm telling you, Brock Purdy is the reason the 49ers won that game. And it's not that he's got to go prove it again. He doesn't have to prove anything. He's better, in my opinion, and more. You can count on Brock Purdy more than you can count on Lamar Jackson. You can count on Brock Purdy, and he needs to be in the same conversation with Josh Allen. He is, in my opinion, a better operator, making better decisions than Josh Allen made in Buffalo in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's a more capable thrower than Lamar is. And I think, again, we saw the total package from Brock where, hey, okay, if my down the field options aren't available, I can go out and get 10 yards for my team in any given situation. And so, again, it's great that these guys can run all over the field, but I want the guy who runs for effect. I want the guy that, can really shred a defense from the pocket. And then when the defense steps up and makes a play, he can break your back by running down the field. That is the mold for a Super Bowl winning quarterback in the NFL. So to me, I don't really understand why we continue to hate on this guy. I don't understand why it continues to be a question. The guy is in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And he's going to play Patrick Mahomes, and they're going to battle, and the best man's going to win. But either way, even by that measuring stick, he's the second best quarterback in the league.
Why do you estimate that Brock Purdy just can't get the response? Like comments like this where he's got to outplay Patrick Mahomes, who, again, interesting on Patrick Mahomes, people want to say he's not Tom Brady. Who cares if he's Tom Brady or not? He's the best quarterback in the NFL, and I hope people are taking the time to appreciate how good Patrick Mahomes is, right? But why does Brock Purdy have to go outplay the best quarterback in football to earn respect? It's just completely and utterly short-sighted. This would be like eating candy and not paying attention in class, like our guy, Phoenix Master Jacob Dorfman's doing. Like right now, my friend, you are unbelievable that you are in class right now. And your teacher, let me take that down. Your teacher just gave you candy. Don't tell him I'm watching the Monty Show while learning about ancient Rome. You're talking about the Romans.
Yes.
You are a stud.
Yes.
You are a stud, bro. And I would point out, I believe this is how fat I am. That's a corner of a Snickers wrapper, and that's a Twix bar.
Boom.
Your boy knows his candy.
That's right.
Love it. Love it, Jacob. Good to see you, my friend. I appreciate you watching the show in class. I appreciate you thinking about the Romans right here on the Monty Show. Don't forget to make sure you download the Prize Picks app right here on the Monty Show, because you guys, our promo code just exploded, right? We have one of the top promo codes at Prize Picks. There's a reason so many people play Prize Picks. It is so much fun. Coming up in about 25 minutes, we're going to get you the Prize Picks today, and I need to recover because the only football loss I had yesterday was a Lamar Jackson rushing touchdown.
I don't regret those decisions.
I kind of do. I kind of do. Gambler. I do.
Yeah.
But Christian McCaffrey for the half yard, I got the promo on that one.
Boom.
Isaiah Pacheco scoring the touchdown at a higher level, I got the promo on that one.
That's what they do.
That $40. Yeah. You damn right. Ya boy won $67.50 on Prize Picks.
Baby.
Right. And then I had Jordan Poole and Colin Sexton less than 40 the other night. But Anthony Davis didn't come through. I think it was Saturday night, one of those nights. I was down in the Jeezy golfing, had LeBron, missed it by a point.
Damn.
Missed it by a point. But crushed it. Absolutely crushed it on the Chiefs. Absolutely crushed it on the Niners. To a much lesser extent.
Mm-hmm.
On Jared Goff.
Gaff.
And I love my guy Goff. Love him. But I had him for 272.5. And what did he have yesterday? 273 yards. Cha-ching!
Boom.
I was nervous, to say the least.
Clutch, bro.
My friends. Prize Picks is amazing. NFL is coming into the downswing, but you got to get it for Super Bowl. There's already a Super Bowl. It's
Patty for half a yard.
Patty for half a yard.
Yeah, throwing for half a yard.
Promo.
Yeah,
it's already a Super Bowl promotion.
Yeah.
In the Super Bowl, here are my Prize Picks. I've got Patrick Mahomes half a passing yard. I've got Isaiah Pacheco for an anytime touchdown. And I've got George Kittle more than 50 yards receiving.
There you go.
I feel really good. That is a $50 threesome, if you will, to win $112.50.
Okay.
So we in it. Wait till you hear my NBA picks for tonight, because I made a mistake, but we're hoping for it to come through. So download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty to get 100% deposit matching. And again, everybody in West Virginia, let me update you. Prize Picks made a major announcement today that they are now live in Tennessee and West Virginia with new game modes. Prize Picks Pick'em Arena will always have projections available in the next 20 hours. It's really, it's unbelievable. And they absolutely have Super Bowl free squares with Patrick Mahomes at half a passing yard. It's a win, you guys.
Go get it.
It's a win. Go get it. Download the app. Use the promo code Monty to get 100% deposit matching, which means if you deposit $10, they're going to give you 10 more. You deposit 100, they'll give you 100 more at prizepicks.com. All right, let's run downhill through your comments here. Replica. Most non-offensive coaches are mediocre on game day. Ooh. Preach.
Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah.
John H. in-game management was appalling. No protection plan for KC's blitz package, 8 run attempts. And am I the only one? And we can absolutely, that's throwing Kansas City and Baltimore. Am I the only one who is stunned that the most overrated quarterback in the NFL Lamar Jackson did not really want to run the football yesterday. Did not want to run the football yesterday. I don't know how it's possible that Lamar Jackson only had 8 runs for 54 yards, 20 of 37, 7.4 yards, a touchdown and a pick, and a terrible interception.
Doesn't make you feel responsible.
42.9 QBR.
Awful.
Can we stop talking about this guy as one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL? Because it's time. It's time. And you know what, Lamar, I get it. You're the athlete. You're the guy that everybody's terrified of. Hey, in the regular season, dude, you are as good as it gets. But when it comes to teams that are scheming against you in big situations, you just can't live up to it. And the idea that this guy just got paid a massive contract, he's going to win the NFL MVP, he is what we always thought he was, a guy who can't deliver in the biggest moments. And why is that? Because passing the football in the NFL for Lamar Jackson is not easy and it's not natural. It is something where he has to think before he lets the ball go every single time. Whereas guys like Purdy and Mahomes don't even look where they're throwing the ball and it's right on the numbers, right? And I look at a guy like Jared Goff. What did Jared Goff say this week? Hey, I have to concentrate if I want to throw a tight spiral. You can see it. Lamar Jackson is not that guy. Lamar Jackson can't read a defense and say, okay, boom, ball's coming out in 2 seconds. What did I tell you on the show Friday? Nobody in this league holds the football as long as Lamar Jackson, with the exception of Justin Fields in Chicago. And that is not something to be proud of. Lamar Jackson averages 2.7 seconds per snap when he's passing in the pocket. That strip sack yesterday, 100% on Lamar Jackson. Terrible ball protection, terrible ball awareness, terrible awareness of what was going on around him. Stop putting Lamar Jackson in the group of quarterbacks that are elite in this league, because he simply is not. And until he proves that he understands what defenses are trying to do to him, and until he understands that the football's got to be out in less than a second and a half, Baltimore's not going to win anything. And I agree wholeheartedly. Congratulations on that awesome defense, and their defense is awesome. But from here to 4, until Lamar Jackson either is not there or develops significantly in his mental side of the quarterback game, the Baltimore Ravens are nothing more than a regular season championship, in my opinion, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, the Baltimore Ravens are a team that are going to continue to underachieve until they find the recipe for success with Lamar. And I think that hesitancy to run yesterday is really quite astonishing, surprising, even disappointing on some level, because that's his bread and butter. Your bread and butter as a quarterback is, hey, I've improved as a passer, but I'm prolific as a runner. So what was Kansas City doing? Kansas City was mixing up the looks, right? They were giving him some man. They were giving him some zone based on the situation. But the thing that really stood out to me about Lamar is he wasn't recognizing the opportunity, which was, hey, when they're playing man, you got to run because their backs are turned. And so then I'm watching this game and I'm like, dude, they're not, as an offensive play caller, you're not understanding that when the Chiefs are in man coverage and you have Lamar Jackson playing quarterback, you need to set up to go down the field, because when the man coverage is in tight coverage, their back is to Lamar. He can run. He can get you those yards. He can break their back. Yet what did we see? Lamar's hesitancy. Hey, I don't want to run. I don't want to run. I'm going to try and be a pocket passer. I'm going to try to, shred this defense from the pocket, instead of just being who he is. Because ultimately, who Lamar Jackson is, naturally as a quarterback, is really difficult to stop. Now, I don't know that it's Super Bowl good. I don't know that it's, hey, you can go out and beat the Chiefs, even 60% of the time as just the natural way that Lamar likes to play the game. But what I do know is he can play a lot better than he played yesterday if he would just run a little more. Because all I saw was the Chiefs sitting back waiting. The Chiefs were like, hey, you're not going to run a lot today? We'll sit back. We'll force you to play in front of us, and we'll inevitably, because you're not a great passer, we will put you in a 3rd and long situation at some point. And that's all that was. That's all that was yesterday. From a defensive perspective with Lamar, they made him check it down constantly, and that's ultimately why you lost the game.
Well, and I don't know what you say to Zay Flowers today. I mean, that fumble was just unforgivable in that you were trying to talk that talk to what I think is the best corner in the NFL, L'Jarius Sneed. If he's not, he's one of. I look at Sneed. He's widely respected. I think he's given up one touchdown coming into this game. And you're spinning the football and shoving him to the ground, and then you fumble. He strips you at the goal line. That right there was exactly what happens in big situations. Like it is just amazing to me that the Baltimore Ravens fell apart like this. It's just amazing to me. And I think it is wild that Lamar Jackson was this bad and this average and this just simply unable to operate. Like, how is he that locked up mentally that he's holding the ball and strip sack and holding the ball, not a good throw, holding the ball, running out? Like, it's remarkable to me. And listen, the Kansas City defense, that I thought the pre-snap disguise was elite yesterday.
Yeah.
Right. But you can't tell me that Lamar Jackson, the NFL MVP to be, you couldn't diagnose that. You couldn't diagnose that.
Well, even if you couldn't diagnose it, even if you were unable to diagnose the pre-snap look, like at some point, if you're Lamar, you have to understand, okay, I got to put this team on my back and go get some first downs here. Like, we got to get down the field here. And again, it's the hesitancy to run yesterday that stood out so much. He literally looked like someone who was like, yep, I'm committed to being a pocket passer today. And while I love that out of Lamar, because he is a run first guy typically, you really hurt your team's chances yesterday. I mean, it's wild to me that the Kansas City Chiefs are sitting there saying, hey, yeah, we have no problem. We're not scared of you throwing over our head. We're just going to sit here and we're going to play a basic defense with some disguises and some different looks, but nothing insane, nothing wild. And Lamar's just sitting back there getting sacked. And I don't know. I was really surprised because you know that Patrick Mahomes is going to be good for it when you play him. You know that they're going to put up points no matter where they're playing. So if you know that, how are you playing at home? How are you playing that tentative? That's what I don't understand.
Yep. Drew Doser says, I wish Lamar Jackson played for the Browns. I think a lot. The problem is, I think he isn't getting the development he needs. I think he took and it depends on who you believe. I think what Lamar Jackson did this past offseason was remarkable. The work he put in, I think his throwing mechanics are significantly better, still very subpar. He is not, as I said, he's not a natural gifted thrower of the football.
Right.
He has to work at it. He has to think about it. He has to hesitate, right? And you look at the way he came back to camp, the ball coming out cleaner, the arm action's much better, and still he is behind the curve. I really hope that he focuses 100% on the mental acuity of this game this offseason, because that's all that matters. He is not a guy who can look at a route that's in the first 25% of that route and say, okay, I know exactly where he's going. I know exactly where I need to put the football. Boom, gone. Right? Like Brock Purdy yesterday, and I want to say it was to Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk runs a kind of like a fade route to the number and then cuts out. The ball is out of Brock Purdy's hand before Ayuk ever looks back to the line of scrimmage. And it is on him, and it is caught. And that's the throw that Lamar cannot make. And the sad thing about the Zay Flowers play, that was a great play by Lamar too.
Yeah. And
L'Jarius Sneed was better than you on that play and made an incredible play. Unbelievable. Phenomenal Hebrew. Monty, where's the criticism of Ben Roethlisberger? You want to compare Lamar Jackson to Ben Roethlisberger? Please don't lower Lamar to that level. Held the ball for 10 seconds almost every play, and he's a Super Bowl winner. He also, okay, Lamar Jackson is a humanitarian compared to that, whatever you want to call Ben Roethlisberger off the field. See, the problem with Ben on the field, he made probably 3 of the best throws in the history of the Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger, did he hold the ball a lot? He did. Did he get hit a lot? He did. But that dude understood what the defense was trying to do to him. That dude made throws that nobody else could have made. That throw to beat, what was that, Arizona?
Yeah.
In the corner of the end zone. That might be one of the best throws in the history of NFL playoff football. Not maybe, it is. And it certainly is one of the best throws in the history of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Elite. You will probably never see a needle threaded like that again. Not from that range, not from that distance, none of that. It is just, it's remarkable. To see the way that Roethlisberger threw the football was unreal. Lamar Jackson isn't half the thrower that Ben Roethlisberger is.
Totally agree.
I mean, Lamar is a better human. Lamar is a better everything. I'd rather have Lamar as my quarterback, even knowing that he is not half the thrower that Ben is. But Ben Roethlisberger was a better thrower of the football. He had the mental side. He had the physical toughness, all of that. And every snap, Ben got older and older and heavier and fatter, killed his game. But you never questioned if he understood what the defense was doing.
And I think that's the biggest difference between the two. Lamar Jackson, for, all of his, what we'll call it amateur days, right? Before he was in the league, all of his time in college, high school, all of that, he was just a better athlete than you running around. So he didn't have to learn how to diagnose the defense at a really elite and deep level until he got to the league. Again, like it's a different style of play. Why did Ben know what the defense was doing? Because he knew his fat ass wasn't running away from anybody. So he had to know what the defense was doing, and he had to have elite arm strength to play in the league.
The hard part for me with Lamar is he is somebody now you can see that they have put a leash on him. Like you feel like there were so many times, there had to be a dozen times where he should have run the ball. He just didn't. And I think Lamar wants to be known as an elite thrower, and he's just not.
No.
And if he's not going to run, and this is, again, it's why I would take Brock Purdy over Lamar Jackson. Brock Purdy's a gifted thrower of the football, and his ability to scramble absolutely broke the back of the Detroit Lions yesterday.
Yeah.
Just broke their backs, dude. And it's exactly what I needed Lamar Jackson to do yesterday. And it's the most frustrating thing is we hadn't seen him be this hesitant, this locked up mentally is what I keep coming back to. I haven't, in 12 hours, 24 hours almost now, I haven't found a better term for it. Lamar Jackson looked locked up mentally. And he had a handful of really great play. Again, I'll go back to the Zay Flowers play. That's a flipping great play by Lamar.
Yeah.
And Zay Flowers wants to taunt people and then wants to fumble at the goal line. And it's inexplicable because I also point out when that game 17-10, any of those things happen and the Ravens probably win that game.
Yep.
Any of that happens. If Drew Tranquill doesn't have the absolute game of his life, probably their second or third best defensive player yesterday was Drew Tranquill. And he's solid, the guy, but what did he do? He raised his game for the postseason. He raised his game to the moment. What did Dan Campbell do? Lowered his game. What did Zay Flowers do? Lowered his game. What did Lamar do? Lowered his game. To the moment. They bent to the moment. Pressure breaks pipes.
Yeah.
Right? And you look at L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed got beat by Zay Flowers until he beat Zay Flowers in one of the biggest moments in the football game.
Yeah, I mean that has to be the play of the game.
Raised his game.
Yeah.
And I look at Roquan, 16 tackles for my dude.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I look at Kyle Hamilton. I'm not sure that he's a defensive lineman, but he plays one on TV. I'm not sure he's a corner or a safety or a linebacker or a punter, a kicker, a coach, a trainer, a water boy, but he plays one on TV, and he certainly did yesterday because he did it all for them. And you could only manage a field goal and a touchdown.
Well, and I think it's fitting it came down to the Zay Flowers play, in my opinion. Like, you look at that and you say, hey, man, like, you're going to fumble at the goal line like that, you're probably going to lose the game.
Yeah.
And obviously Snead deserves a lot of credit for that play, being able to punch that football out. But Great players don't fumble at the goal line, man. I'm a big believer that it is a cardinal sin in football, man. You do not ever turn the football over at the goal line. And to me, I look at that and it's like you could clearly tell it took the life out of the team. Like when that happened, you were like, yeah, not sure you guys are coming back from that.
You know, the other thing that took the life out of you, 8 for 95, 8 penalties for 95 yards. And I love that the Ravens came out to hit Patrick Mahomes. But slapping him in the head and then falling on top of him, that's roughing the passer. Jadeveon Clowney, that's roughing the passer.
All day.
And you're arguing the calls.